Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. So, 5 segments, 2 hosts, 2 guests tonight. A lot of curse words and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
I'm good. I'm having a Diet Coke.
That's good. I am having a Manhattan as per usual.
Okay, as per usual. This little... Don't, Rosanna's going to be really mad at me. Don't get mad at me. It's terrible. I know, but I'm having it.
We have to. It's been quite a week. I think there's been like 7 new prime ministers in Great Britain this week, right? Was there like one, like each day of the week we had a new one?
Look, you get 30,000, 50,000 pounds a year for the rest of your life if you serve as a prime minister. That lettuce is going to run next. So that it can get 120 or 100. Like if you only have to do 40 some odd days in a job, 44 days in a job, you kill the queen basically just from your presence. I don't know, or it's the end. You usher in a new monarch, and then you're out. And there was a lot of the funerals, but there was a lot of gatherings, a lot of history made, a lot of momentous stuff. She's going to have her picture in forever, and then she gets to vacay. This is something else.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll take it.
and where and who's gonna? I mean, where do you go after that? Where do you go even
I
on
don't
vacation?
know.
Although I mean, I guess as Arthur Snell said on my podcast, she is so
Yeah.
boring that people will probably forget her face pretty soon, and she'll be able to just blend maybe.
Who?
Um,
Yeah.
do we know yet who the new prime minister is going to be? It's not going to be Bojo again, is it? Because
I have no idea.
that would
I
really
don't
be
know.
crazy.
I think that whole party has so many problems, and it's just been, I don't know. It feels like to me that it's a party that's been compromised for quite a long time, uh, and Britain just doesn't know how to slough it off. I mean, we say this whole thing about, oh, we're a two-party system, and we look at the flaws in that, excuse me, and should we have another party and da 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 da, and here's a parliamentary system, but it really is just the Tories and the Labor Party. I mean, at the end of the day, they're down to two as well, and if one can get completely corrupted and corroded, you're screwed. And I think they
Yeah,
had a lot of problems on labor, big time problems on labor as well. So I don't know too much about it. All I know is all I saw was corrupt politician after corrupt politician, and it's a shame. It's
it
just a
is
shame.
because I
It's a
feel like
shame.
anybody they could pick random people off the street in Britain who would be better than her. Or
Yeah,
Boris or any of these there's a lot of really smart, capable people in that country. Like, can we
I
get one of
know.
them to run the show, please? Is it too much
I
to ask? I don't know. Not that we're,
yeah.
we had 4 years of,
Well, what you said the other day, come on, let's go ahead and put in an actor who
yeah,
played.
Hugh Grant. It's time for Hugh Grant.
It's time
I
for Hugh.
said this. Yeah, he was prime minister on Love Actually. It's getting time to watch that movie again.
Yeah,
We're all used to seeing him there anyway.
it's a time for
Just do it.
Christmas. It
How
makes
much worse
perfect
can he
sense.
possibly be?
Yeah,
He's got his politics are cool based on exclusively on his Twitter feed. I think he's down.
I'm
So
in.
yeah, I'm in.
Yeah,
I like it.
I'm in.
The other thing that we're not going to actually officially talk about is Marco Rubio getting his ass handed to him in that debate. I mean, has there ever been a politician who just stands on stage and is humiliated in quite the way that Marco Rubio has been humiliated public? Like,
No,
it seems like it happens to him more than other people. Yeah? No? What do you
I
think?
yeah, he's up for it. I mean, he's sticking in there. It's a question as to why he's sticking in there. It's very clear he knows better than to do all the shenanigans he's been up to for as long as he has. But now we know he's not just a walking Bible verse. I mean, Val Deming, he is a real person still, and she wiped the floor with him. I don't think anyone that's going to vote for Marco Rubio watched that debate or cares. So
Yeah.
that's our big problem. The debates are there to make us feel good, and to sort of feel like the process is still the process. But I don't know. We have one party that's just, they don't care. They'll do whatever their party leaders say. There's no critical thinking going on. There's no interest in debates. There's no, and they'll just listen to Sean Hannity say he won. And then they'll go, oh, good, he won. And that's it.
Yeah. It's almost like the GOP has become a cult in a way.
It's
Just
almost as if
tease
it's a
we're
cult.
going to be talking about later.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's
Now,
dive in because we want to get to our guest.
we want to get to our guest. We want to stop
Yeah.
talking. Okay. First topic, Bannon fodder. Okay. So Steve Bannon,
Yeah.
judge sentenced him today. What is it? 4 months and $6,500. $6,500 is it's like,
I can't even.
Seems a little bit low to me, but like, I don't know. It was interesting to see it play out on Twitter because and what the rapid responses were, because a lot of people were like, it's a win. And I mean, I guess, but it's only a win. I've been saying this for at least now 2.5, maybe even 3 years at this point. Alert me when they're in jail, when he's actually in jail, when the GOP's most leprous MAGA is in jail. And not only in jail, in a prison facility where he's not going to have access to like a sound studio to record his seditious podcast.
Yeah.
Then I will celebrate. But this feels like another, Trumpy kick the can down the road. What did you think?
I thought he got away with murdering our democracy.
Yeah.
I had at least it's a blow. It might not be lethal, but it's a major blow. Now, who's going to show up for subpoenas? What's going to happen to you? The guy that has absolutely no legal argument whatsoever was allowed to make a legal argument. Okay, great. Got some due process. That all got, it went the way it was supposed to go. Here's your sentence. It was light. It should have been to mean maximum because we're in a crisis right now. And this is now the roadmap. And the roadmap is, yeah, you get a couple months and be able to appeal, and which is, of course, the process. And while on appeal, you can just go on and go home and do your podcast. There's and keep doing keep arranging for, what did he say? He came out afterwards, and what did he say, Greg? He started to say, this is how it's going to go down. We're going to win in November. And then did he get into putting Trump back in? They keep saying their plan. Yeah, they're going to impeach. He said he's going to impeach Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland will be the first attorney general to ever be impeached as soon as we have control over the House. This is not to be ignored anymore. Steve Bannon is the one who came out pre-insurrection on October 31st, pre-election, on Halloween, and said, this is how it's going to go. Trump is going to deny, blah, 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 blah. And he just spelled out a 10-point plan that then we watched unfold in real time exactly how he predicted. Now, Steve Bannon, we're going to talk a lot about mindset tonight. So one of the things that happened for me as I started doing all the research into organized crime and started talking to people who had been in organized crime and people who had actually been in former intelligence and former private intelligence trying to do this thing, and these fucketeers, right? Is you start to hear the same, I started to hear the same thing, that these are individuals who have a psychopathic underlay, if, very, very smart, and were somehow played some role in something big that happened in our nation, or that happens, in our socially, financially, some big sector, something. But for them to be working in the shadows they worked in, they could never be openly taking credit for any of that. These weren't titans of industry that you could look at. These weren't, law enforcement professionals like an attorney general that's at the top, or the head of the FBI counterintelligence. There was no visual prominence. It's all whispers. It's all insinuations. It's all the way, like Donald is the only one that ended up with a fucking title, right? President of the United States. It's a coup, just that he got in there.
Yeah.
And then he had a coup. So why these old dudes want to talk to me, a writer, and other writers, not just me, other writers. We're comparing it with other writers and like, oh yeah, is their psychopathy, their narcissism, their egomania is what allowed them to become so successful in the underworld. But they can't take credit for it. And they get to a part in their life where they're like, the ego takes over. And the ego is just like, you must tell everybody what you actually did and what you had a hand in. You can't just disappear into the night without the whole world knowing how important you are. This is what's going on. This is the ego talking to them. Mm-hmm. And Steve Bannon is living that out loud to all of us. He can't stay quiet. He's all ego. He wants to be the prophet, the great prophet. So he's giving these things that are like, this is what we're up against. This is what we're doing. This is what's happening. Right? My alarm, I forgot to put it on, but we're about to go out. I'm watching the timer.
Okay.
And it's because he can't not let people know. And then the process of letting people know, we should be paying attention, because all of the followers, all the Trump cultists are listening. They're all going, what's Prophet Bannon telling us? And then it happens because it's the plan. He's just telling the plan that's already been agreed upon. And we need to take it seriously. Okay, that's my big thing about Bannon. It's not a big rant. It's just, I get tired of people dismissing him or not listening to him or thinking he's a crazy, or, oh, he's just Bannon. Oh, he's just doing this to agitate. Okay, yeah, all of that. But he's telling us what they're going to do, and we need to take that seriously, which brings us right into our next segment.
It does. If he's going to be a prophet, I think he's definitely got the unwashed part down.
Yeah,
I have to say. The people, speaking of people who talked in New York, we had Boss Tweed for years and years, who ran Tammany Hall in New York City. And at the end of his life, as you say, he went to a journalist and told his entire story, because he wanted everybody to know just how important he was. And honestly, it was good that he did that, because we wouldn't know.
We wouldn't know
how corrupt and awful Because it was like, oh yeah, we did this, we did this, we did this.
Luciano did the
These
same
guys
thing.
have to know. They all have to know.
They have to. They can't. They
Yeah.
can't not tell. They can't not tell. They need the adulation. They need the credit.
Yeah.
They need the credit. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we're up against.
Sad.
All right. I already started our timer on this GOP retirement plan. Okay, guys. So the next thing is the other person who's telling us exactly what they're going to do and saying it in this way. This is what we're going to do if we get in, and it's not getting covered. So we're covering it. Kevin McCarthy is very explicitly saying they're going to do away with what they've been calling entitlements, Social Security and Medicare, the whole thing. And I don't know what bigger lesson we need than Roe being overturned, than the Dobbs decision, to start taking these people seriously when they are expressing their long-term, lick-spittle, drooling goal of what they're going to do to the American people. They really are going to take away Social Security. They really are. And they're really going to take away Medicaid, Medicare. Okay? These are gone. I want to remind everyone, they are entitlements because you're entitled to your own money. That's our money that we earned and was taken out in taxes so that it would be there for us when we needed it, so that it would be there for members of our family when they needed it. So I know that this is the wet dream, just like overturning Roe was the wet dream of all of these Republicans. This is the next big wet dream, to get rid of Social Security, to get rid of Medicare. Here's what's going to happen. Okay, you need to remind them, you're going to get it. You're going to get what you want. And just like with Roe, you're watching your sister bleed out and die from an ectopic pregnancy, your daughter be raped as a child and be forced into birth. Maybe that's okay with some of these guys. I don't think it's okay with all of them. Here's what you're also going to have to do. You're going to have to say goodbye to all your toys. Say goodbye to your boats, your Trump flags. Say goodbye to your little skidoos. Say goodbye to your extra truck. Say goodbye to it all, because grandma is moving in. Say goodbye to your man cave, because you think if there's no money there, your parent will have nothing to go into a nursing home. Will have nothing to put food on their table, as barely will not be able to pay for their prescription meds. So you're either rolling mom or grandma or grandpa out into the street in a wheelchair and hoping someone picks them up like the table you got rid of last week, right? Like the old lounge chair, or you're moving them in, and your whole life now is going to be about taking care of your elderly parents. So let me know when you have a vacation. That's what I say to all those wealthy Trumpers.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun. I've been saying this for a while now. The Republican platform, in practice, it consists of 3 words, which is "fuck you, die." That's what they want. You can look at any policy decision that there is, and they analyze it and think, will this hurt people? And they're going to take the position where the most people will be hurt by whatever it is. That it's almost like that's the calculus that they have. The super rich people get more tax breaks because, if there's one thing that Elon Musk needs, is more fucking tax breaks, right? Jeff Bezos, these people, the amount of money that they pay in tax is ridiculous. You know what we should do? We should bring back fucking 90% top marginal tax rate like they had in the goddamn 50s, which was, by the way, and this was not a coincidence, the biggest burgeoning middle class engine of the economy that this country's ever had.
That's right.
And, this whole trickle down thing is bullshit.
It's
tax
bullshit.
the fucking rich.
Tax the rich. And, that's the era that they want. That's pre-Roe.
You want to bring back the 50s? You'll get the 50s, motherfucker. Yeah.
Yeah. Pre-civil rights. Mm-hmm. Let's go. Give us 80%, 90% of your money.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Paul Ryan is one, by the way, who used to say in college, he used to hang around dreaming about, taking away Social Security and Medicare. So I'm sure he was a really fun date. Can you
Yeah.
like, woo?
Well,
What do
he's
you
an
think
Ayn
about,
Randian cultist, isn't he?
Yeah, right. He's an Ayn Randian cult. Like Ayn
Yeah.
Rand is great if you're like 13. That book is fantastic if you're 13 or 14 and you're like a teenager that you don't have the your brain isn't developed enough to get to the point. Okay,
Yeah.
because you've read Atlas Shrugged, right? Atlas
Yes, I have.
Shrugged. Okay, the
I
whole
think I was
idea
a
is
teenager when I read it, quite
we're going to
frankly.
go on strike and only the cool people are going to be absolved from this. But the problem is, who decides who the fucking cool people are? There is no board of directors of this shit in the liberty. It feeds on itself. There is no way that it can possibly actually work IRL, as the kids say. Just like communism, in its pure form, it cannot work. Ayn Rand, Russian immigrant, lived on Social Security.
Thank you very much. We don't need her opinion. Yeah, it's so again, it's this fantasy land. You talk about Fantasyland, that book that
Kurt
our friend wrote.
Book. Very, very good book.
Very good book. But there's a fantasy land coming out of the right that has been in place for decades and decades and decades of this America as they think they can manifest it to be. And there's nothing about it that works. There's nothing about it that will work. The only thing that they get, if they get this America that they want, is they get to not do any of the hard stuff. They get to just walk away with their toys and their money, and their friends get to have their money, and they don't have to think or be bothered with the effect on anyone else but themselves. It's just pure narcissistic supply. That's all it is. And it's a roulette that what they also don't realize, because it's such a fantasy, is it's a roulette wheel whether it's going to work out for them. Whether they all presume, as you said, that they're going to be the ones chosen to be in the cool kid club, and they're going to have access to power, and they're going to become oligarchs or whatever their fantasy is, or be in someone's favor. It doesn't work out that way. There isn't anywhere that works out.
Yeah. You know what? You are not John Galt. You're not. You ain't John Galt.
You ain't.
No.
You artless idiots. All right. Speaking of art.
Oh, great.
Those are our little rants, everybody. There was a lot of news this week, and it's almost like I don't really want to talk about it. I just want to be in the moment that we're all in with dealing with this mass psychosis that seems to be sweeping over where out of every news platform, instead of just evaluating things like, for example, the economy, and which is what McCarthy was doing, right? And just sort of saying, okay, well, why do we have a little inflation? And doing the news there, they're just sticking their microphones in the faces of everyday citizens who are not educated or not informed, because they're relying on them to give them the news that they're not getting. And it's just this echo chamber of, well, we just all have our little grievance. And, I'm sorry, I don't want to pay that much gas, so I'm going to vote Republican, as if that's going to work. And then the news just keeps feeding that out there. And that's all anybody has to grab onto if they're not actually reading, which nobody does anyway. And so to me, I feel like it's been a fog this week. I feel like everybody's fallen back into this state of wandering, mindless, no critical thinking into, oh, well, there's nothing we can do to stop this. I guess this is what's going to happen. And da 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 da. They're just in autopilot, and everyone's back into the old habits. This is the same shit we saw leading up to 2016, and it's very disheartening. And I'm sorry, and I know everybody's disheartened. So, but I feel it. So I don't know if you all are feeling it too. I'm not even interested in the details of anything. I just want the truth to start coming out of the faces of the people that we look to get it. And we're not getting it. We're just not getting it.
I want to live in a world where I don't know what a special master is, or who the special master is, or what the sentencing guidelines are for contempt of Congress. I want to live in that world. That's the world that I want to live in.
Well, there's a lot of people living in that world. And then the only news that they're getting is that, the gas prices are high and the Republicans will fix it. And what do you think about that? And then they say, that sounds great. And then that's the news.
I don't know. It's almost Halloween, which means the migrants are coming to the border. So we're going to get that.
Coming to the border. Yeah, this is happening. Okay. We've already had that.
Yeah. All right. We got it. Our guest is diligently watching us. I'm very happy. He's nodding. Okay. This is going to be great. I can't wait. Okay.
Okay. All right, so we have a little bit. He wants us to go. He's going, giddy up. All right.
Giddy up.
So
Yeah.
time is of the essence. Well, we have something new for everybody. Greg, you want to set this up a little bit?
Yeah, instead of doing karaoke, we're going to do a dramatic reading.
Well, we have a new little comedy bit for everybody that we're taking very seriously. So let's go ahead and roll that.
And now for a dramatic reading.
Okay. Ready?
I'm ready.
This is from the actual memo.
This is from the actual memo. Let me set you up. So Greg Olear is going to take us through the memo. The first thing we're going to learn about tonight, everyone, is that candidate Trump is and maintains to and continues to be an existential threat to cultural Marxist memes that dominate the prevailing cultural narrative. There's a cabal, a Maoist Marxist cabal that is seeking to take Trump down. He must be destroyed. And this has intensified, this cabal and their aims to destroy Trump, to crisis-level proportions. The first thing you're going to learn about tonight is called the opposition.
While opposition to President Trump manifests itself through political warfare memes centered on cultural Marxist narratives, this hardly means that opposition is limited to Marxist as conventionally understood. Having become the dominant cultural meme, some benefit from it, while others are captured by it, including deep state actors, globalists, bankers, Islamists, and establishment Republicans. Through the campaign, candidate Trump tapped into a deep vein of concern among many citizens that America is at risk and is slipping away. Globalists and Islamists recognize that for their vision to succeed, America, both as an ideal and as a national and political identity, must be destroyed. Atomization of society must also occur at the individual level, with attacks directed against all levels of group and personal identity. Hence the sexism, racism, and xenophobia memes. As a Judeo-Christian culture, forced inclusion of postmodern notions of tolerance is designed to reduce nihilistic contradictions that reduce all thought, all faith, all loyalties to meaningless. Group rights based on sex or ethnicity are a direct result on the very idea of individual human rights and natural law around which the Constitution was framed. Transgender acceptance memes attack at the most basic level by denying a person the right to declare the biological fact of one's sex.
Thank you.
And scene.
Are we going to do another one?
Oh, let me just do real quick.
I think we need to do battle space.
Okay, we'll do battle space.
Let me set up battle space. I forgot that we are Islamists as well as cultural Marxists. Our cultural Marxist narratives, as they intensify, they're further operationalized in the form of hate speech narratives, hate against Judeo-Christian white people. So what happens? Tell us, Greg Olear. This is called the battle space.
These attack narratives are pervasive, full spectrum, and institutionalized at all levels. They operate in social media, television, the 24-hour news cycle, and all media, and are entrenched at the upper levels of the bureaucracies and within the foreign policy establishment. They inform the entertainment industry from late-night monologues to situation comedies, to television series memes to movie themes. The effort required to direct this capacity at President Trump is little more than a programming decision to do so. The cultural Marxist narrative is fully deployed, pervasive, full spectrum, and ongoing. Regarding the president, attacks have become a relentless 24/7 effort. In summary, this is a form of population control by certain business cartels in league with cultural Marxists / corporatists / Islamists, who will leverage Islamic terrorism threats to justify the creation of a police state.
And see.
That's it. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you enjoyed.
And now for a dramatic reading.
Okay, enough of that.
Enough of that.
We're going to bring on our guest. We're very excited he's here. He is the director of the Freedom of Mind Resource Center. He has a podcast on the Midas Brothers Network called The Influence Continuum. He's the author of 4 books, including The Cult of Trump, and he is an expert on cult and mind control. Stephen Hassan, welcome to the 5-8.
Welcome, Stephen Hassan.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for staying up late. I know we talked before, you're a morning person. All 3 of us are morning people. I'm usually like getting ready for bed at this hour. So now before we get into everything, tell everybody, I mean, I think the people watching this know who you are, but I think as we talked a little bit about before, talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about your own experiences with cults, because you were exposed to a cult and were in a cult at a very young age, which you managed to get out of and then make it your life's work to help people. So tell everybody a little bit about that.
Well, back to the 70s, it was 1974, the month that Patty Hearst was abducted by the Symbionese Liberation Army. Yours truly was sitting in the cafeteria at Queens College. By the way, I grew up 1.3 miles from Donald Trump's childhood home.
Oh my.
Anyway, sitting there, and 3 women started flirting with me, and that was right after my girlfriend dumped me. And they lied their faces off. They said they were students, etc. And long story short, I got deceptively recruited into the Moonies cult. I was promoted very high up as an American, and I nearly died in a van crash due to sleep exhaustion, which led to a deprogramming in 1976. And coming from a Jewish upbringing, educated about the Holocaust, when my mind came back online, I was like, I would have killed on command. Like,
Wow.
I fasted for Nixon because of Watergate, because God wants Nixon to be president. I hated Nixon. I would fight with my father, who was a Nixon supporter. And what a jerk and what a criminal he was. And there I am in the Moonies, calling my father, saying, Dad, I'm fasting for Nixon, thinking that he would like it. And he said, Steve, you are right. He's a crook. I said, Dad, you don't understand. God wants him to be president. My dad said, he's a crook, Steve. Now I know you're brainwashed. Anyway, I became a mental health professional. I really was helped by one of the leading experts studying Chinese communist brainwashing in the 50s, Robert Lifton, whose book helped me to understand the criteria of brainwashing, the first model. And I met with him and I said, I want to tell you what my experiences was, because your book was so saved my life. So I start talking with him. He said, wait a minute, I just know the second hand, but you've lived it. They did it to you. You did it to other people. You need to study psychology and explain it to me and people like me. And there I was, an ashamed, embarrassed, humiliated college dropout ex-Moonie with a cast through and this Yale psychiatrist, is telling me I can teach him something. Okay, so I switched from poetry to psychology. And I knew nothing about the People's Temple, but Jonestown blew me away, because I thought I could have been there face down. I could have been ordered to shoot Leo Ryan, because I was trained that democracy was satanic and we need a theocracy to rule the world. And if people didn't, accept what we were saying, we would take their physical bodies away and send them to the spirit world. I mean, I really understand the mindset. So when my agent said, I want you to do The Cult of Trump, I was like, I don't do books on any specific thing. He said, Steve, do you think he's a cult leader? Yes. Who's a bigger cult expert than you, Steve? Who would do it other than you, Steve? So anyway, and I basically learned I was noticing on reading the comments as you were doing your stuff, and somebody was saying, like, they're going to wreck the country. Why would they do that? And what you need to understand, if you read my book, The Cult of Trump, I say that Putin is the puppet master in chief, but there are these Christian right-wing, Flynn's and the New Apostolic Reformation and Opus Dei and the Family that Jeffrey Charlotte did a 5-part, I think it was 5-part Netflix series. Excellent. 2 great books. There are actual authoritarian cults in the cult of Trump. And it's the leaders of these cults that are directing their people. They're not following Trump other than he's a figurehead. Like, it's a mistake to think that he's a genius and he came up with this on his own. He's being dangled by Russia. And in fact, do you know Craig Unger?
Very well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I interviewed him and Yuri Shvets, who said, when I was higher up than Vladimir when I was in the KGB. And he said, we recruited Trump decades ago.
Yeah.
As an asset. And they even put in the book, the New York City recruiting front place. But,
that's right. The electronics store.
But so why are they doing this? Because they want to destroy America. America is the only superpower that could keep China in check, Russia in check, and these extremist authoritarian billionaires who are, I believe, in the Ayn Rand cult, or maybe they're white supremacist cults. Maybe they're gun cults. My former cult has a gun factory. They make AR-15s, and a religious cult worshiping AR-15s and calling for civil war. That's my former cult.
Yeah. It always goes to violence.
Hello.
It's always a eugenics bent at the end of like, we're gonna wipe out those that aren't like us, that don't think like us or look like us or whatever it might be, so that it's only us because it's our job to cleanse, right?
It's identity politics on a certain level. But I need to say something to your listeners, and that is, when I was in the Moonies in the 70s, 80s, even early 90s, cults recruited on the streets, in campuses, in real life.
Yeah.
Mind control cults are all online now, and they all are using our data profiles gathered about each one of us with algorithms to sculpt specific feeds to all of us.
Yeah.
And we need to turn off our cell phones. Like, we should not be on it all day long. We are addicted to the internet, and we are being fed. And by the way, it's not just right wing. They want to make the left wing extreme. In other words, they want the polls to get really agitated so there's more combat versus, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you're talking about the
horseshoe.
Yeah.
Horseshoe.
So the woke extremist cancel culture. And as soon as I heard the word cancel culture, I said, that's what mind control cults do with ex-members. They cancel them. They're no longer real. They longer deserve to have a life. In Scientology, they call it fair gaming, suppressive people, ex-members, right? I said I'm against it on the left and the right. And it isn't just the left that does canceling. Think of Colin Kaepernick.
They try to cancel us with AR-15s. So, okay, so I want to just dive into one little thing, because our audience is really up on you, and they're up on this thing. They understand the platforms. They understand.
By the way, I have to say, Jim Stewartson is here, and Jim did a TEDx dismantling QAnon with Dave Troy and myself and Desiree King, and he explained alternate reality gaming.
That's right.
And said QAnon is stealing my tech. So he was my teacher.
That's what I want to get into, is the technology.
Yeah. So, but I just wanted a shout out to him, because people need to understand QAnon was a psyop cult. It really was a cult, and it was game technology. Oh, we're going to drop some breadcrumbs. Let's figure out the clues of the right. No, not good.
Not good.
Not
but
good.
Again, there's a technology to mind control. There's a science to mind control. It has been studied. It has been developed. There are psychological operation divisions within every major nation state intelligence services. The Kremlin has one of the largest ones. China, we suspect, has one just as big. We have our own. That's what Flynn, I know there's questions over whether Flynn was actually in there, what he was doing in there, but he knows the technology. He knows it. Rich Higgins.
Oh, he is absolutely. Flynn's a bad actor, traitor.
He's a bad actor. So I just want, because I think it's so important for people to understand, because Americans don't tend to be able to put ourselves in the shoes of another society, another culture, or even another nation state intelligence service, that this is a science. It's a literal science that has been studied, broken down. There are steps to actually pushing towards mind control. We had, Richard Higgins talking about it, but from his frame, that he's woven this conspiracy frame because he himself is soaked in it, and he's just seeing conspiracy wherever he wants to see conspiracy, and weaving things together that might not be connected, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to find a way to connect them, and it's all part of a cabal. And there's always this big, it ends up with this big outside force, dark force that
you need a devil. You need a devil,
and it's controlling me. So all these elements of that science, of that as an actual technology, if you could just talk about that a little bit, and what you see, how these platforms, as you just brought them up, how the social media platforms in particular actually mirror and accelerate that technology and drill down.
There's so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
So let me say categorically that my cult was a proxy group of the CIA and the Korean CIA who wanted to counter North Korea brainwashing by doing brainwashing on South Korean dissidents. That's what my group, the origins of my group, was the CIA MK Ultra 3.0 or 4.0. And then when America was leaving the Vietnam War, they imported the Moonies, to the campuses of the United States in a vain effort to create clubs that would be anti-communist. We need to bomb the crap out of the commies. So anyway, when I got out of the group, and this top psychiatrist said, "You know more than I know," I really wanted to unpack all the nitty-gritty things. So I read everything I could find on brainwashing, mind control, persuasion, thought reform, hypnosis. I've been learning about hypnosis for decades. So you asked about media. So I just made the setup. When you do doom scrolling, you have what's called time distortion. It feels like a few moments, but it was hours. That's what happens when you're in a hypnotic trance, by the way.
Okay.
When you're present, you pretty much know what time it is, how many minutes have elapsed. You're awake and you're present and you're thinking. When you go on automatic pilot and zone, you become so pliable to suggestions. And what's happening now is so scary in terms of the bad technology. And I just want to do a quick plug for the Influence Continuum, my podcast.
Okay, good.
Because they talk about ethical influence to unethical influence. And the more you control someone's behavior, information, thoughts, and feelings, the more authoritarian, destructive cult it is. There are healthy cults here. You know what you're getting into. You can leave without threats. You can read whatever you want to, etc. But people need to start getting educated, because a lot of what's happening on the internet is good. Like, I think this interaction is good because we're grounded in facts and we're talking about realities, and hopefully being optimistic. I'm going to cheer you up, Stephanie.
Okay, good.
So the thing is, and I just did a podcast with Rand Waltzman, and the title was "Beware the Metaverse." And this guy's been studying AI since the 60s, like the very beginning of script theory. Anyway, he said, when you are in an immersive environment, Think about how much information they can gather on your brain reactions and how customized with AI. They can take, 5 of your most trusted people in your life, they can dig that up, and they can take elements of their facial features and do a deep fake avatar, and you're going to unconsciously like these people in your immersive environment unconsciously, and they could make you do anything.
That's really fascinating, because I think that works with names too. I thought, like, there was that author named Elroy or something, not James Elroy, but he had a name similar to that. And I think he was glomming. It was the same principle at work, right? Where it's like, I this is vaguely familiar with this name or this word or this. I'm very.
I don't know, but
reader.
The point is that technology can be used for good or evil. Right. And if you think you're superior, if you think you that other people are objects, you have no empathy because you're a malignant narcissist, right? And that's what all cult leaders are, malignant narcissists. That's right. Chapter 3 of The Cult of Trump. I compared Trump with Hubbard, with Moon, with Jim Jones, and with quotes from all of them, like the playbook, right?
Identical, yeah.
So, but the hopeful thing is, because I've been doing this work for 46 years, people walk out even after 60 years when the door opens, when they realize the phobias that have been installed in their head, that there's no life outside. Once they realize there's life outside. Have you seen the Truman Show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch the Truman Show again, thinking about what's happening now. That was a prophecy, that movie. It was, really, really great, but it's magnified. Anyway, the good news is the human spirit wants to be free. People born into these authoritarian countries and things, they don't like being lied to, exploited, taken advantage of, etc. And there's resentment. And if you're gay and they're homophobic, right? That ain't good.
Eventually you're going to crash into your own agency.
1,000%. And but the thing is there's a ticking clock with the environment, because the global oil barons, the Kochs and the Saudis and the Putins, they want to keep us addicted to their stuff. And the climate is really demonstrating 30 years of warning from climate scientists. And now we're starting to see it. But we're in a ticking clock situation. So all I have to say is all hands on board. Not a time to do video gaming. Spend time constructively, walk in nature, listen to music and dance, call up your best friends and hug them and be together, but also do things that are going to educate people, motivate people, engage people, take care of people that don't have the resources you have. Be a good person.
Oh.
Yeah, that's good. I almost got a little teary. Almost made me cry.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to pivot briefly, because I can't let you leave without asking about Ginny Thomas, because
you're going to keep me longer, huh?
I promise it won't be
okay.
Long. You surfaced this fantastic video that you found when you knew Ginny Thomas back in the day, when she was coming out of LifeSpring, which was a cult, and she was talking about that. Subsequently, she got involved with the Cult Awareness Group, and talk a little bit about Ginny Thomas. What was she like then? What is she like now? Where do you see this going with her?
So the truth is, if I'm really going to be honest, I remember her introducing me to Clarence and shaking his hand. I do remember that, but I didn't remember meeting her like 12 years earlier, or something like 1986. My colleague, Joe Zimhart, And the initial clip of the video said it was 1989. It was actually 1986. But anyway, Joe said it was 1986, Steve. I said, really? She said, you were leading the ex-member group and she was there. Don't you remember? And I'm like, no. And I said, are you sure? And she said, that was my first counter cult meeting. I'll never forget it. And he was in the meeting and he spoke too.
wow.
And so it's like, where's the tape? Who has the tape? And then we got the tape and we did a great clip and it went viral. It was viral thread. So from there, and she, with the clip that we used, she was saying it's hard to have a balance and I'm not sure how much to give and not to give. The person who intervened with her didn't counsel her. He talked her out of being in LifeSpring, this large group awareness training cult, a la Landmark Forum, Est, Life, Insight, some of those groups. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Ginny Thomas.
Did you?
Oh yeah. She says, Steve, she read my book Combating, which came out in 88. She said, Steve, we've got a lobby. Let's make Cult Awareness Week in honor of Jonestown and Congressman Ryan. Will you come and do congressional briefings? And I was like, yeah, great. Please, let's do it. I went to my congressman, Barney Frank at the time. He signed the bill. Let's teach people about cults. That was way back when. Anyway, she married Clarence. I shook her hand, his hand with her. And next thing I know, he's on the Supreme Court and she's off to the races now, not wanting to do counter cult stuff at all.
No.
And she was converted by Scalia's son, the Catholic priest, by the way.
Not
Antonin
the other
Scalia's
one, yeah.
son, we were, converted Clarence and Ginny
into Opus Dei. Yeah.
That's all
I
the
don't know
Catholic
if
information.
I'm not sure if it's Opus Dei, but it's certainly very extreme traditional
extreme.
It's
Catholicism.
associated with the Catholic Information Center and Father McCloskey. That whole group
Well,
is.
so that's Opus Dei. Then
I don't like saying anybody is in Opus Dei because I don't fucking know. But the shit that they're talking
It's
about
Father
is
McCloskey.
stuff that is McCloskey. Yeah.
Yes, and I did put in that Bill Barr was on the board of directors of that Opus Dei Center in Washington, D.C. Did you know that Bill Barr was the AG when Robert Hansen, the biggest Russian spy, was caught, who was Opus Dei? And Bill Barr said, oh no, Opus Dei had nothing to do with it. Says
there's a lot of spies.
Well, and Robert Hansen's brother-in-law worked for Bill Barr.
Writing speeches. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's so the other thing I learned about the cult of Trump, it's the same people for 50 years. Yeah. I got out 46 years ago. That period, they were like, let's get Reagan in and let's make a plan, and Tea Party and Gingrich, and right.
They went underground. They became the kind of into the John Birches and the weirdness. They became some decrepit monster and they resurfaced. Wah! And then
Council for National Policy, Ann Nelson,
CNP,
Shadow Network, great book.
Yeah.
The Moonies were founding members of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
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 Oh my God!
Thanks for talking about that. Oh, go ahead.
We have so many other things to talk to you about, but it is getting late.
Thank you. Next time, have me on.
Please come back,
and we'll have a few more minutes.
Again, the book that you wrote is called "The Cult of Trump." It's very good. It remains very good and timely because I don't think the cult of Trump, so to speak, has gone away, and the stuff that's in the book is valuable, even though Trump is no longer in office. So I encourage everybody who hasn't read it.
Yeah, thanks. And I want to plug the game is up.
Yes,
former Trump members tell their stories, which I am in, and Melissa Jo Peltier just got a distribution deal with Amazon and Google Play, and I interviewed her for the Influence Continuum on Monday. But it's a really important documentary that everyone needs to see, and then you can go to your friend who's a MAGA supporter and make a deal and say, I got a favor. I really want to hear your opinion. Come and watch this doc with me, and I promise I'll watch any doc you want to show me. But the deal is we talk about it with each other.
Okay.
You
good. I
can
like
go
that.
first, and trust me, this is a goodie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really good doc.
I like
It's good.
that.
I had her on my podcast
Thanks,
a couple
Doc.
weeks ago. Yeah, she was good.
Thank
Again,
you.
also freedomofmind.com. Stephen Hassan, thanks so much for staying up late with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Doc.
Oh, he was great.
Oh my God, we barely
nice.
scratched the
Yeah.
surface there.
I know it could be
That
like
could
a
have been
7-hour
2 hours.
podcast.
Poor
And we
guy.
have 2 guests tonight, and our other guest is waiting in the wings patiently.
Patiently.
And we're
All right,
coming.
well,
We're coming.
Let's do
Let's-
Life and Death Con really quick and get to
Yeah.
our good buddy.
I feel like we need to Life and Death Con is the Kanye thing, and look, we need to talk about this at least because I think everybody needs to at least acknowledge it and speak it openly. That the anti-Semitism that's going on right now is fucking crazy and on the rise, and it's not good. You know, it's not. My friend Asia Radin, friend of the show, she's been on this for years. Like, they're gonna come for us. They're gonna every time there's a massive fascist overthrow, it always is precipitated by anti-Semitism surging. It is disturbing that we have people like Kanye West, who, I know he's a buffoon. My son is 17 and loves his music. He's a guy who has enormous influence. And you have somebody like him. Obviously, you have Trump and his people. You have
well, you have the Fox News.
Fox News, right, Laura, whatever, with the blood libel. And you have this Groypers, Nick Fuentes, whatever his name is.
I can't even talk about Nick Fuentes. Yeah, it's so
creepy ass guy, just outwardly saying, and these people believe the bullshit. They believe that there's like some weird rapture thing happening. That when all the Jews go back to Israel, there's going to be the fucking rapture in the second. I think they really believe this shit, and I don't think that anybody in government should belong to a death cult. That's just my own opinion. If you're like in favor of Holocaust, like I mean nuclear Holocaust, you probably shouldn't be in charge of a country and its nuclear arsenal. Just saying. That's my own opinion, my own belief. But this is a dangerous moment, I think, and it's really, really important that people and people have been, but we need to call this shit out because it's dangerous and it's ugly and it will not stand. That's it. It pisses me off.
Pisses me off too. I don't even want to talk about it too much, but we have to. And I just think anti-Semitism is also an instrument. It's not just a thing that sweeps over. It's a massive tool in the toolkit of fascist takeover and authoritarian rule. It just is. You want to shake up the way the world is ordered, and this is why they'll use this language. Strip women of their autonomy and start talking about violence against segments of the population, and it always starts with Jews. It just always starts with. It's very frightening. It's frightening for those of us who have Jewish families. It's just it's terrible, and the silence just isn't okay. It's not okay. One of the things that Kanye said, I think today, was laughing about it, snickering about it, is that Adidas, he probably has a clause in his contract with them that doesn't matter. He's an outrageous character. He might say outrageous things. They can't cancel for anything that he says or believes because he's so confident that they're not going to cut ties with him. Some of the other brands already have. And Balenciaga is like, you're done. And so let's see whether or not Adidas has the stripes, whether they have the backbone, whether they know what they're actually up against and enabling and allowing to profit. Are you going to be if you're going to be in the realm of hate, I'm throwing out all your shit. I don't care. I know everybody did that with the Krups machine, whatever. Like we had all the MAGAs like, we're going to cancel into that. No. This is a line that has been crossed that we cannot allow. it's just there's nothing about it that even needs to be entertained on any level whatsoever. That person must be deplatformed. Period. End of story. End of story.
Yeah.
I can't start going on about it because it'll make
All
me
right,
too
enough said.
upset.
Enough said.
Yeah,
I
enough
just felt
said.
like we
Enough
needed to talk. We needed to bring it up on the show.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
it's not, it's scary and it's nasty and it will not stand.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what I have to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Quick announcements. Do you have any announcements?
No, I want to get to my friend.
We're getting to it. We're going to quick announcements. Steve mentioned the game is up. That movie is out. It's good. My podcast today, Prevail. I had a great discussion with Andrew Weitzman about who wrote a book called "What's the Matter with Delaware?" And the answer is enough to fill a fucking book. So go listen to that. He has a lovely Welsh accent. So like, there's a lot of like him talking and me just listening. I talk very little. It's great. He's great. What else does this say? See, I don't even know what that means. And I want to thank everybody for giving us these super sticker, whatever it is. Every time people put money in the virtual tip jar, we appreciate it. We're still figuring out, like, should we interrupt and put it on the screen? I don't know what it is. I feel like at this point in the announcements, we're going to acknowledge everybody for for donating, because
being supportive.
We appreciate it. We definitely really appreciate it. So, and now.
Okay.
Okay. Andrew Laufer.
What's up, guys? How's it going? That was awesome. That was an
okay,
awesome
good. You've been backstage for a while.
I love it.
You're backstage for a while. We wanted to make sure you came in with a bang.
Oh, dude, it was so awesome. Just listening to Steve was phenomenal. I mean, everything, it just makes sense. It just fits, in terms of what Trump is and how his, his nonsense has affected everyone, and how people who don't really view things in a critical way have fallen victim to his insanity. It's a cult. Without question. It's a cult.
It's a cult. We'll break it down. We'll bring it back and break down the cult of Trump and how that actually got built. Because it was a very sort of, there's a roadmap to that.
Right.
It starts with identifying grievance, right? And then when you have everybody's Facebook profiles and all of their shit and all of their grievances and all their stuff because we're just handing that information over on these social media platforms, especially Facebook. And then it gets handed to him in like a thing, like, say this, people are upset about their toilets not flushing, right? And then he uses his rallies or his massive platform that he had as Twitter, right? Which is then talking to people, talking straight into their cortex because they're in there going like that. And he's saying, we need the toilets to flush. This is an outrage. And they go, oh, how did he know? Oh my God, it's just like, he knows. He's like, and then he's elevated to the status of the prophet, right? Yeah. But it's because you're putting it on your Facebook page and he has the people in there that are giving him the thing. So there's a real simple formula for how this all went down.
Yep.
And cult experts and people on experts in fascism and the rise of these strongmen, all of that, all the hairs on everyone's back and neck was going up because it's very easy to see what's happening when you're educated in the technology that he was deploying and a part of.
No, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. It's crazy and it's very dangerous. We're only as strong as our institutions are. And if those are undermined and corrupted, then we're at a really huge loss and we've got a lot of problems.
Well, let's use that to bridge into your peak. Oh, go ahead.
Before we get into anything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You're at Law for Law on Twitter. You're what I would consider a good guy lawyer. But for the benefit of anyone watching who doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to?
Sure. I'm a civil rights attorney. I've been practicing my own law firm for about 22 years, going on 23 years. I represent people primarily who are victims of police misconduct and government overreach, both on the federal and state level. False arrest, malicious prosecution, excessive force, retaliatory conduct, things of that nature. I represent plaintiffs against big government, the little guy and gal, and however you want to identify yourself. That's who I represent. And I've been doing it, for quite some time, and I enjoy it. And it's also good that I make money doing it, because I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't make any money. But yes, no, I mean, I've represented, God, I don't even know, hundreds, thousands of people at this point in my career. I've handled numerous amounts of high profile cases, and currently I'm representing Michael Cohen, Trump's former consigliere, right? Is that
Consigliere.
There we go. Thank you. I didn't have the Italian accent wrong there.
You can't pronounce the G. Don't ever pronounce the G.
Don't ever pronounce the G?
Consigliere, yeah.
Consigliere, if you're going to say it, yeah.
And right now we have, I'm not going to get too technical, but we have what's referred to as a Bivens action and a claim under the Federal Tort Claims Act, which, basically says you can sue the government for intentional torts and negligence and things like that, applying the state law where the incident or the deprivation occurred. So, that's basically what I do.
Served Bill Barr with papers, yeah?
We served Bill Barr with papers. We're suing Trump. We're suing Mr. Barr, the former AG.
Right on.
A bunch of people from the Bureau of Prisons. Carvajal, I think he's the current head, but he's on his way out. And, a few others with U.S., the probation office here in the Southern District. So, yeah, it's been, we're waiting for a decision. Of course, Trump and DOJ moved to dismiss our claims. And we had oral arguments a couple of months ago, and we're waiting for a decision. That's really where we're at right now. So
love to see it.
When do you expect that decision, just so we can let people know they can watch out for it?
It's really hard to say. I'm hopeful it'll happen soon. I don't know if it'll be by the end of the year, but I'm hopeful it'll happen soon. It really depends on the judge's schedule. I mean, when it comes down to it,
okay.
Civil action, criminal actions take precedent over that. So hopefully we have a lot of criminal actions going on against some of these Trumpers, over the next few months down in the Southern District. That would be really nice. I would wait for my decision on my motion just to help facilitate that. So that would be great.
Okay. Jail time. We're going for jail time. Okay. I want to go back to what you said about the institutions and how scary it is and how we need them to hold, because that's why we wanted you on. The Durham, another Durham fail, and the whole thing is fizzled out.
Right.
We wanted a legal person to come on, and it's also somebody who was really familiar, as you are, just as an observer, just as a consumer of news and information and staying on top of things. The whole, we're going to investigate the investigators to prove that the Russia hoax is a hoax, and Bill Barr, beginning this whole thing by running around and talking to people, traveling through Europe and trying to find, and then he appoints this Durham bull. He appoints to investigate the bullshit, right? Which is if we can tear apart or somehow dismantle the investigation into Trump's ties with Russia, right? And Russia's interference in our election. It wasn't just Trump's ties with, it was like, did Russia really interfere? What was their reach? How far did they get in? This was the Manafort indictment came out of this, the Mueller investigation, the special counsel investigation. And Durham was brought on by Barr, and then he's carried over into the Merrick Garland Department of Justice, because it takes a long time to do these cases, right? And to try and bring.
You want them to be done right. You don't want to rush.
You want to be done right, and so it was allowed to continue. Merrick Garland allowed it to continue, so we can just sort of see where this whole thing is going. With, is there anything to this being a hoax, this being a false investigation, this being, what all the Republicans have been saying it was all along, and some people, on the they call themselves non-Republicans or on the left, but they're not, that have been carrying Durham's water and trying to say that this whole thing was just crafted out of FISA leaks and and all this corruption going on. And that's why, and they're out to get Trump, which takes us back to our dramatic reading, because that was the basis of that memo that Rich Higgins wrote, was it's this cabal that's out to get
Yeah.
Trump because of communism and Maoists and Islamists and the elitists and the globalists. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. So tell us about why Durham failed yet again, what you see from that, and what does that say to everybody about where this thing is at? As a legal case, what are the avenues? Is it done? Is it over? Are we done with this fucking nightmare? Where are we, Andy? Tell us.
So with regard to Durham, it was complete nonsense. It was, the Trump supporters all cry, "Oh, weaponization of DOJ." Well, that was an example of weaponization of the DOJ.
Yeah.
They put this poor guy through, months of prosecution and a full trial, for him to, it was the only real charges that came down from it. And he was found not guilty, and it was complete nonsense. They were trying to prove a negative on 2 counts, I believe. And that was it.
Tell us about the guy. So
Dichenko, right. He was, I believe he was someone that, there was a lot of allegations whether or not he was involved in the Steele dossier and all that. But, there were allegations against him that he had lied to the FBI during the investigation in some way, that he had spoken to someone that he didn't speak to and that he lied about it, and when you pursue something like that, like, a lie to the FBI, 18 USC 1001, it's got to be material. First off, that's the first thing. It's got to be material to an investigation. You have to lie. You can't just lie, like, like I lost weight and you really didn't lose weight and tell that to an FBI agent. You're not going to get prosecuted for that. All right. You're going to get prosecuted if you lie about something that's material. You materially mislead investigators, off the trail, or attempt to, at least. That's when a 1001 prosecution will occur. That's what they were going after him for, I believe, and they just were not. There was nothing there. They were trying to prove that a phone call happened that he said didn't happen, but they had no evidence of it. They just said, "Well, this person was in the United States, and you were here, and they were there." It was complete nonsense, and in a way, I mean, the amount of man hours, or woman hours, and everything else that were put into an investigation, a prosecution like that, is incredible. The incredible waste that just, derived from this witch hunt. Yeah. It literally was a witch hunt.
It was a witch hunt. Can you sue for that? Can these folks sue for this?
Yeah, I in my opinion, on something like that, yes, you can. There would be an FTCA. Well, it would be a little bit more difficult under Bivens, but under the FTCA, it would be a malicious prosecution. You would sue him. You have to go through the notice requirement and all that stuff, but at the same time, you would be able to sue him under the FTCA. And Bivens is this wonderful, originalist Supreme Court we have right now. Back, I think it was 2017, and then more recently, had 2 decisions that basically really curtailed our ability to sue federal actors in court for a constitutional right directly. Like, I'm going to sue you for violating my First Amendment rights, or I'm going to sue you for violating my Fourth Amendment rights. Before that, we were able to do that much more. And that's what the Bivens case is about. It's a Fourth Amendment violation against an individual named Bivens. And then there's another one. There's a Fifth Amendment, which is based on gender discrimination. The Eighth Amendment dealing with, deliberate indifference to serious medical conditions. So, I don't want to get too technical here, but it's very limited what you can do. So really, the avenue that this gentleman has, Dichenko, is probably an FTCA claim, which there's certain, criteria you have to follow through with, and a malicious prosecution against, people that basically caused this false prosecution to occur to him, and it was just motivated, and there was no basis in reality for it.
No. And it looks like he was a very valuable source
to
our intelligence community. And now that's destroyed. So we also have this hit that our national security took at a time right now where I would think we would want every single source we can in that part of the world to be helping us understand what there's a genocide going on. It's like when we're losing our sources within the Kremlin,
we're targeting people that we need, and that's part of the Kremlin. These pseudo agents of influence and whatnot are doing to help undermine our institutions. But the thing I think Garland did correctly was to allow this to play out. He had to, because if he didn't, they would scream cover up.
Right.
And weaponization of the DOJ and all this other craziness, and he did this correctly. So it was, there was not much you could do at this point to curtail this. Let Durham, dig his own grave, and let poor guy, maybe they'll have some sort of settlement for him. Maybe you won't have to like sue to get some money out of this, and try to repair, relationships with sources that we desperately need, that our IC desperately need in law enforcement. So.
Yeah, this is Chris Steele, the guy who wrote the dossier, tweeted about it this week, saying this is the worst travesty in the U.S. judicial system in terms of this kind of thing. Because again, as you were saying, LB, we've burned a source. This guy was apparently one of the, if not the primary source for the entire Steele dossier, which you can go back and read it and whatever you want to do with it, but that was a real thing. Like the Trump Russia thing
there was
is a real
raw
fucking
intelligence.
thing.
There was raw intelligence in it. I don't think that it was an active measure to get everybody thinking about something else. Folks who got folks in. No, this was just a raw intelligence report.
Yeah, exactly.
That
never intended for me to read.
One of the the MI6, somebody who came that we used to work with that helped us with the FIFA scandal, right? And probably a lot of other things to actually to get the bad guys and keep them from laundering their money and flooding us with their info ops and all the other rest of the fuckery that we've been up against that we're dealing with on a regular basis because we just let the wolves in the hen house constantly. And so to that's why it was like, if you look at the folks in counterintelligence who have kept us safe, right? The Pete Strzok's, the Figluzzi's of the world, everyone in there going, this is a travesty. This is a travesty. It wasn't just Chris Steele doing it, who everyone kind of displaces and thinks that he's some kind of private guy because he's now in this private company.
Right.
Chris Steele was running a bureau
in Russia for the MI6 for years.
As an allied, as our closest fucking ally within Five Eyes.
Yeah.
So, anybody who says they're on the side of the intelligence community, who is entertaining any of Durham's horseshit or this attack, you got to turn that shit off. That's bad, right? And we have that happening all over the show with the folks that are like trying to confuse the murky up the water about what this really was. This was a political witch hunt. I don't know why this guy Durham signed up for this. Who knows? Maybe he should be in Melissa's next fucking documentary and get decultified, right? Who fucking knows? But he's trashed his career. He's trashed his everything. It's gone.
He knew what
he's got that facial hair.
He knew what he was getting himself into. I mean, look, there's certainly a lot of dumb people involved in this whole, I don't know, overarching op that we've been dealing with for decades. But at the same time, there are people that very well know what they're doing, and they know what they're doing, and they know at the end of the day, no matter what happens, I'll get a payday or I'll get some sort of beneficial treatment from so and so. And there's a lot of backdoor, things going on there.
I'll get a featured show on Fox News. Something.
It's crazy. I mean, there's also some very mentally ill individuals involved as well. I mean, there's some crazy people. But look, Durham is done. There's nowhere to go here. It's all over, and we're all better for it. Thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah.
All right. Now it's 6:18. You were so great to stay. You were so great to hang in there for us. I guess we went a little long.
We did go long.
I love hanging out with you guys, though. I mean, we haven't done this in a while. And
I know it's fun. It's fun to have you on.
You now have a promo. I made a promo for you. I bought that song for you. I made sure it was heavy metal because I know you.
Time out. It's only 10 seconds. Can we please play it one more time?
Play it again.
Cool. Do it.
Okay, here we go.
I forget.
Laufer.
I could just play that in my law office and just make my employees listen all day.
That's your entrance music, man. That's your theme song.
Cool.
All right. well, we loved having you. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap for tonight?
Yeah.
You know, basically we still have a long road ahead of us. You know, getting Trump out was one step. You know, we've got many more steps to take. But the thing is, we can't lose hope. You know, we you know, what did our founding fathers have to go through and their kids, you know, from from the 18th century until after the War of 1812 was done. We were still fighting. We were still trying to establish our republic. And every so often we're challenged, and we're being challenged right now. And if we overcome it, we'll be that much stronger. You know, that's how we grow.
There we go. And you had a tagline for a long time. Do you remember it?
You're going to prison, traitor.
Yeah, that's what I like to see. You did it today. I saw it today. Maybe
did it come out today? Did you pull it out for Bannon?
I think I went after. Yeah, I told him, and then I think I went after Margie Taylor Greene or MTG, whatever it was. So she's like, "I stand with Steve Bannon." I'm like, "Then you're going to stand with him in prison, traitor." I think I said something like that.
Yeah, there we go.
Actually, I could feel dopamine in my system. Like it made me feel better. It literally made me feel
You're going down.
I love it.
That was your first one. And then you also said the Republic will stand.
We're going to be okay. The Republic stands. The Republic stands. Yeah. That's right. We still stand. Yeah. We're still here talking. We're not getting dragged off into prison right now for exercising our First Amendment rights.
Right. No. At least not till next week. So we're good. We're good.
We all know
1 week at a time. It's 1 week at a time.
1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time. It's all good. It's good. It's good to see you, man. Thank you so much for joining the show and hanging out with us and staying in the green room for so long. We always go long.
It was great. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure watching your other guests, and I had a great time.
Excellent. All right. So we can follow you on Twitter. For anyone who isn't, you can follow Andy on Twitter it's at Laufer Law, right? Is that your Twitter?
That's correct. At Laufer Law.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Andrew, good night. Thanks again for joining us. Great to see you, guys.
No problem.
Okay. This was a great show. Again, I want to acknowledge Chunk for the brilliant animation up front. I want to say thank you to everybody for watching and always the great comments. And, you know, we always appreciate the little money in the tip jar. It's great because, you know, we need it's good, you know, and keeps the lights on.
Keeps the lights. And we're all going to we did get an assignment from the good doctor. If anybody noticed it, go outside, take a walk in nature, see your friends, give them a hug, have real life interactions, get off our phones. So that's our homework. That's your homework, Greg.
I'm not getting off my phone. You're high. No, I'm kidding. No, he's right though, because I do feel like the phone is not good for me. Like every time I get a text, is it just happening? Every time I get a text, I feel like it's going to be bad news.
Yeah,
like I never get a text and think, oh wow, this must be something great. I'm always like, oh fuck, now what? That's always what goes to my head. I feel the vibration and I'm like, fuck, you know. Is anybody else like this? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm pessimistic.
You need to spend more time with your friends, right? Not just me here and not just me in the morning on the phone.
I have to leave the house? No.
You have to leave the house and then you'll feel better about it.
Not doing it. All right. Again, we'll be back next week. I think that's our plan. Next week is Halloween. Maybe we'll come in costume.
Maybe.
Or not. And that's it. Hopefully hopefully next week will be a better week. Thanks for watching the 5-8, everybody. We'll see you next time.